Greetings from Las Vegas, and welcome to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with you on a Wednesday night. Glad to be representing EOG. The three letters stand for Ion Gaming. EOG.com, a website dedicated to the hearts and minds of sports bettors everywhere. An excellent show for you last night when Dink and Waz were in studio. We'll try to follow up that act with three EOG contributors. Seanie Mac will be the lead contributor tonight. He'll start the program. He's a 29-year-old sports bettor from Pennsylvania. We'll get him to bed early, staying up after 1 o'clock in the morning there in the East to contribute to the show. He says he's going to bring a cool factor to the program, so I appreciate Seanie Mac for his contributions. Heim will follow up Seanie Mac's appearance. Heim's been on the program many times in the past, a one-time California attorney, now professional sports bettor here in Las Vegas. We'll wrap up the hour with Gyno. He, too, has been on the program in the past. Many more winners than losers from Gyno through the years. Gyno to join us at about 10:30 this evening. It's 10:30 Pacific time. Let's go to our first guest, Seanie Mac. Seanie, good evening and welcome to the show. Thanks for not only contributing to the radio program tonight, but thanks for your contributions to EOG and the main forum.
Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm good. I had a good day today. I watched baseball from morning until night. You know, it was a long day. There was a game at Coors Field, day game at Coors. I watched that game. 16-2 was the final there. Not much of a contest as the Rockies scored 8 runs in the first and cruised thereafter. But it was interesting, Seanie Mac. The rest of the baseball card, very quiet. You had the 16-2 game early. You would think the Grand Salami would go over the total. It stayed safely under the total. It looks that way anyway, as we had a lot of low-scoring games today in baseball.
I watched most of the Tigers game with David Price going, and what seemed like a must-win game for the Tigers. And he's just been a huge deadline disappointment, in my opinion. Just has not produced for that team.
And of course, Price, it's surprising because Cy Young Award winner, and you would think, and a money pitcher too. David Price was good in the postseason. I remember when he was a youngster with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Oh, he was. First overall pick out of Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt they consistently produce just stud pitching prospects. Kid coming out. I forget where he went, Tyler Beatty. Vanderbilt's a solid program. Not to mention you got to be really smart to go to Vanderbilt too, First, I just want to, I'd like to send a shout out to, the people listening at EOG and the people at Cappers Mall, a forum I post at, that are listening tonight. They got a little thread going, listening to what I'm going to talk about, and I appreciate the support. This is my first time on the radio, and actually just mentioned the other day that I'm going to be trying to go back to school, to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, trying to get into radio. So, I guess this is my first big break on the air with John Kelly.
Well, good to have you, Seanie Mac. What about your introduction to gambling? Tell me what you can offer in terms of gambling content. Are you a winner?
I like to think that, I am a winner. Some years I win. I've had some, epic losing years like, the recreational gambler does. I remember placing my first bet. I was 16 years old. It was $25 on the Dolphins, and the worst thing that could have happened is I won. And, I've been hooked ever since with sports betting, and then I got into poker with the poker craze, online poker, sneaking into the Taj at 19 years old, playing poker. And I've always found, poker and sports gambling just to be, so interesting and fascinating because it's one of those things where it takes 5 minutes to learn and like a lifetime to master. Like no matter what you do, you're never fully going to be what, they call the market. You're never going to hit 80% of your plays. You're never going to – I can make the right call every single time on an all-in and still lose on the river. And that's just something that fascinates me.
There is a luck factor involved, to be sure, and you're right. The market is better than any one individual, that collective wisdom, that ability, and with money behind it, too. That's really the key. Seanie, you could have when you have these markets like the NFL market where there's a lot of money behind the numbers, then on a Sunday morning before kickoff, those numbers are pretty hard to crack. What about your handicapping process, Seanie Mac? How do you go about finding point spread winners?
I would classify myself more as a feel handicapper, some math behind it, do crunch some numbers just to get a kind of a baseline as to, what I'm working with, maybe games that I really need to pay attention to. I do a lot of reading. Not so much like ESPN.com, but some of the blogs. I look more for guys that are closer to the team on a daily basis. The forums are huge. Forums it's basically a free trade of information. I can have a guy who's in the middle of nowhere in Iowa, but he's got a great read on a team on Iowa, or Iowa State, and that's not something that I'm going to be able to do out here in Philadelphia. Is follow Iowa or Iowa State closely. That's why I love forums so much. If I can get any sort of information free, I'd be stupid not to capitalize on it. I talk with people that have, I wouldn't say, inside info, but people with great info. You send messages back and forth. There's some guys that post on forums that you kind of got to read between the lines as to what they're saying, but you got to pay attention, to the substance. A guy like Viejo Dinosaur, he talks like I listen, and I'm a guy who, I do run sports options. I love sports options. Maybe just for the basic fact that I like to think I'm cool and I'm watching the screen just go black. But if anything, I do watch what numbers do and when they do them, closer to game time. I watch them a lot at halftime. I actually make a lot of halftime features. Watching what numbers do with the lower limits at halftimes is huge. A little system I like to do in the NFL, if a total is, let's say, set at 40, and it's 7-0 going into halftime, I like to, bet the over in the second half. If a halftime total is 25% or less of the full game total, I'll always take the over. Now, it's 3-0 in the NFL this year, about 4-3 in college of what I've been able to get into. I mean, it's not going to win every time, but it's just something like that I stay above water in a hard, NFL, market. And, I also check what the public has going on. I check 4 to 5 sites as, I know it's not actually money being wagered, but the percentage of what the public bets, are. So that's just some of the things that I do, all week long, every day, every time I get a break from work, when I get home, that's stuff I'm looking for.
We're going to ask Seanie Mac for his top plays this weekend. He'll give us one play on Saturday, one on Sunday. He mentioned the name Viejo Dinosaur. That's Arturo O'Connor, who has a glorious past, not only in Nevada's race and sportsbook industry, but also the offshore sports betting world as well. Arturo posted late last night at EOG.com about the quarterback for Florida State, Jameis Winston, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, that he got in trouble there at the student union at campus, Florida State University, and he will be sitting out the first half of Saturday's game against Clemson. The market did react. Florida State was 20. Now I see 16.5 right now at Chris. So Florida State 16.5 over Clemson. Sean McGuire is the backup quarterback to Jameis Winston. He'll get the start in place of Winston, 16 of 26 in his Florida State career in mainly mop-up duty. That's the kind of information, Seanie, that you mentioned you can get from forums and maybe beat the crowd.
No, yeah, it's essential, because there's always Twitter helped a lot with the trade of information too, and I'm not talking about just sports betting, but also fantasy football is becoming a market where you're starting to see a lot of people from Wall Street and sports bettors really get into the FanDuel and the DraftKings, where it's daily, where they can come in with a math model and kind of run numbers on these guys, and anything where you can make money in, the free trade of information is essential.
You mentioned Cappers Mall. Some of the smart guys at EOG include the two we had in studio last night, Dink and Waz. Railbird will be here on Friday night. I appreciate what Chucky G provides the EOG community. Drink Your Milkshake, an outstanding college football handicapper. A couple of horse players, 2-win, 2-place, 2-show. Discreet Cat. I saw Paul Bovey earlier today at the Tropicana. James D. I like what he brings to the forum as well, along with I Wish I Was a Pro. Who should we recruit, Seanie, from Cappers Mall to bring over to EOG?
Well, there's a bunch of guys there that know what they're talking about. A guy named Roma, goes by Romanowski. Roma, very smart guy, plays a lot. He's real low key. I know what he knows, what he's talking about. Another guy, Mr. Hot Picks too, good friend of mine. I text him. These guys have a grasp on what it takes to not just win on a daily basis, but over the course of the year. Bankroll management is huge, and I'm not looking for a guy that can just give me a game, give me a winner. I want a reason behind it, because I can throw a dart against the board and come up with anything. I need to know what you did to get that winner, because at the end of the day, I'm probably gonna have to borrow some of your information so I can incorporate some of that stuff and win games.
Let's put the theory into practice. Seanie Mac, a play on Saturday. Who do you like best, and why do you like them?
I'm going to go with 364, Washington State plus 24 against Oregon. It's an ugly dog, a lot like what Waz was talking about last. I'm gonna buy low in Washington State. 2 horrible losses this year against Rutgers and Nevada. Actually, the last 2 times they've played Oregon, they lost by 24 and 25. So it's right around that number where the spread is now. They did cover both times. There's been a lot of public activity, a lot of public talking surrounding Oregon, and rightfully so. They are a top 2, a top 3, team in the country. Washington State's coach, Mike Leach, he's extremely familiar, I want to say, with the spread offense and how to run it. He ran it for great success in a long time down in Texas Tech. I think he at least has an idea on how to maybe slow down, Oregon's offense. When I crunched some numbers and I ran some numbers, I came up with a line of 20. So I'm going to take the 4 points my way. And a big factor, I think, in this game as well is Oregon plays Arizona next week. Arizona is, in my opinion, probably the 3rd best team in the Pac-12 right now. Just maybe a little bit of a revenge factor, since they did lose to Arizona last year.
So an East Coast guy handicapping a Pac-12 game, making it his best on Saturday, betting number 364, Washington State plus 24 over Oregon. ESPN will televise. The game kicks at 7:30 Pacific time. Take the home dog in the Pac-12 game between Washington State and Oregon. Your Sunday best bet?
And, we're going to buy low and sell high here with 458 Giants plus 2. Houston. I'm not buying Houston right now with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I refuse to. I line the game actually at New York Giants -3. So I expect Tom Coughlin to try to limit the exposure on Eli Manning right now with his turnovers. I think he's had the Giants have turned the ball over, I think, 6 times so far this year. I expect them to really just try to run the ball, control the time of possession. Houston has done a fabulous job so far this year with time of possession. They beat up on a team out in Oakland that it's horrible. They're terrible. We get it. End of story. I think they beat a Redskins team that I actually like Kirk Cousins better than, RG3, but that's a discussion for another day right now. So again, I like it. A lot of what Waz said last night, I agree with. That I'm gonna buy low on the Giants, and a term I hate to use, but it almost seems like this is a must-win game for Tom Coughlin and the Giants, or they might as well just pack it in for the year.
A home dog in Week 3 in the NFL. Take the 0-2 Giants over the 2-0 Texans, betting number 458. The New York Giants plus 2 over the Houston Texans. 2 plays from Seanie Mac in his EOG Sports Hour debut. We'll have to recruit Seanie again to the program. His content excellent, and I thought his presentation was outstanding as well. Seanie Mac, thanks for your contributions tonight. We'll maybe chat with you in a week or 2.
All right, thanks, John. Go Eagles.
Seanie Mac on the program. We'll step aside and take a quick timeout right here. When we return, EOG contributor Heim returns to the show. He's been good to us in terms of selections on the program. A one-time attorney turned Las Vegas sports bettor. Heim to offer his bets for the weekend. You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour.
There's no such thing as a sure thing, unless you're talking about Ion Gaming. Ion Gaming is a website dedicated to the hearts and minds of sports bettors everywhere. If you're looking for smart, sophisticated sports handicapping information and insight,
go to EOG.com.
if you're looking for the latest news on the ever-changing landscape of Nevada's race and sportsbook industry,
go to EOG.com.
if you're looking for the most recent developments involving the worldwide sports betting scene with an emphasis on the leading sports books in San Jose, Costa Rica,
go to EOG.com.
and finally, if you're looking to join an online community of sports gamblers where registration is free and the information is priceless,
go to EOG.com.
you get the idea. Why gamble on other sports betting websites when Ion Gaming is a sure thing?
And I love a sure thing.
Hi, this is Rick Alec, president of Sports Options. Sports Options is a sports information tool designed to give sports bettors of all types the necessary edge needed to improve their bottom line. With Sports Options, you'll never lay a bad number again. We provide you with live odds from the leading sports books in the world, from Costa Rica to Curacao, London to Las Vegas, and everywhere in between. Sports Options also provides the fastest and most accurate injury information, lightning-quick score updates, and game analysis from 30-year handicapping veteran Mark Simons. We offer affordable services for players of all levels, starting at just $99 per month. To see which service best fits your needs, you can take advantage of our 7-day free trial. No credit card is needed. Just go to www.sportsoptions.com and click on the free trial link. I'm confident you'll be impressed with our product, and you'll find it the most complete and comprehensive on the market. In fact, if you don't like Sports Options after 30 days, we'll refund you 100% of your subscription costs, no questions asked. Go to sportsoptions.com for all the details, or call 702-835-1743, and one of our friendly customer service representatives will be happy to help you. Sports Options, information you can bet on.
And we are back. The EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with you on a Wednesday night. You're hearing four voices on tonight's program. You just heard from Seanie Mac. Next up is Heim, one of my favorite contributors, not only to the show, but also to the website. Heim, good evening and welcome to the program.
Hi, JK. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. From where are you calling tonight?
I'm calling from parts unknown in in the Las Vegas Valley.
We missed you at the wrestling last Saturday. You said you might show, but instead Mayweather was more important.
Yeah, I completely forgot my next-door neighbor had invited me to the Mayweather fight, and I love boxing. My wife loves wrestling, but I won out on that. I won out on that one.
So you went to the MGM Grand Garden Arena, saw the action live?
Oh, no. My next-door neighbor had purchased the pay-per-view a couple weeks ago. I forgot he invited me and my wife over. Otherwise, we would have been there. My wife absolutely loves WWE.
Mm-hmm. And this was QPW, but a few steps down the ladder, although some would say the independent wrestling is better than the high-profile organized events. But, about the Mayweather-Maidana fight, Heim, what was your takeaway there?
I think the fight was scored accordingly. I think he only won about 3 rounds. Not much action. The best shot of the fight was after the bell when Maidana hit him and kind of rattled Mayweather. I believe it was in the 4th or 5th round. Just watching Mayweather bob and weave, and just your typical Mayweather fight where very hard to hit. He gets in a few punches, scores more with efficiency of the punches, and he ends up winning by decision. Just a typical Mayweather fight. But I'll tell you what, I'm hoping, and a lot of people are hoping, because I know this last fight here had very low volume at the sports books. I am hoping that possibly Mayweather might take this to heart and fight Pacquiao his last time next year in September.
Yeah, and much needed, I think. It should have happened 3-4 years ago. That's one of the problems with boxing, is they don't deliver the matches that are demanded, but it is unfortunate. But I'm hoping before all is said and done, Mayweather and Pacquiao get in the ring together. Something tells me that Pacquiao is getting old before our eyes, though, and that Mayweather, he won't be able to hit Mayweather by that time.
What did Mayweather close? Did he close minus 600 on Saturday?
Yeah, I saw minus 6 take back 4 at Chris. And I do remember about a year and a half back when the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight was a possibility. I remember Station Casinos had that fight near Pick'em, lay $1.10 either way.
Yeah. You know, I believe it's kind of funny with Mayweather. I see him about once a month in the Bank of America on Cactus and Decatur, right there on the border of Southern Highlands and Southwest Vegas. And I'm telling you, John, he will be in there for maybe a half an hour sending money to about 30 different people all over the United States. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
He knows these people, or he?
Yeah, they're all relatives of his that he's sending money either by wire or mostly by wire. It's just the funniest thing you've ever seen, how much money he sends. He's in there with about 4 or 5 other people, and just kind of a funny sight seeing him send money everywhere.
He made over $30 million last Saturday. Do you think a guy like Floyd will ever run out of money?
I don't think so. I think he's made so much that I don't even think there's no possible way he could even gamble it away. He's made so much money.
Although we have seen athletes go bad in that respect. Who was the basketball? Was it Antoine Walker of the Boston Celtics? I think he got into some debt. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar got in some bad financial dealings, and a lot of NBA players go bad.
Yeah, I believe Antoine Walker, if I'm not mistaken, I think he had a marker at the win for a little over $300,000 that he couldn't cover, and I believe Wynn actually went to court after him on the bad check laws here in Las Vegas. So yeah, but I think Mayweather is actually pretty street smart, and I think he's going to keep most of his money, and no doubt he's going to be a promoter after he's done boxing, and I think he'll do well in that field as well.
One game in progress at this hour in Major League Baseball. A surprise in Oakland tonight. The A's were nursing a 1-0 lead heading into the ninth inning. And Heim, I see on the sports option screen that Texas hit Oakland with a 4-spot in the ninth.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I wasn't really paying that much attention to that game. Actually, my wife had to resuscitate me and give me some CPR. I played under 6.5 minus 125 on the Padre game, and I can't believe it. Nobody on with 2 outs, bottom of the ninth inning, and the Padres end up scoring a run. So, like Dink says, totals were made for bad beats.
Oh, and baseball totals in the late innings. That when totals go over, they go over late. And it's just a brutal way to go. But it comes with the territory. I'd sooner play an under than an over. That's my personality. What's the problem with baseball totals these days, Heim, is the market has really driven down the totals to the point where you almost have to think over before under, because it's the lowest, even though it's the lowest scoring season in 22 years in big league baseball. Today we saw 4 games at 6.5, 3 games at 6. 6 was the close, 6 over, granted, but still 7 of the 15 games had totals of 6 and 6.5.
Yeah, it really surprised me. The Padre game I can really understand. Hamels is really pitching fantastic this last month. He's still hitting 95 on the gun in the 7th inning. So that was more of a one-sided total versus Stultz. But I'm really surprised for the main reason, and Waz touched on it a little bit last night. You don't know what you're getting out of the bullpen with some of these teams out of contention, and that's what's really surprising about some of these totals are coming in under 7.
And Waz also made a good point, Heim, saying that September baseball is a situation or circumstance unto itself. You don't see situations like we have in baseball. Cincinnati didn't start a lot of their key players. In fact, Discreet Cat pointed that out in the main forum of EOG.com earlier today. Washington was playing a AAA lineup in their game against Atlanta. So these are unique circumstances. I think it's these are good situations, I think, for the gambler. I love it when the marketplace is uncertain, and I think gamblers have to embrace situations like this.
Absolutely. Tomorrow you got the Phillies at plus 118 against Erlin, a kid that's coming off elbow problems with the Padres. There's got to be some value with the Phillies, irrespective of Howard being out of the lineup versus a lefty. You got to look at plus 118 against the Phillies, who usually do very well against the National League West. So, yeah, there's some value if you have your eyes open, sure. You're
listening to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with EOG contributor Heim. We'll ask Heim for his top plays this weekend. One note about that Atlanta-Washington game, and watching the Washington Nationals, I know they have a great organization. They've got some players in the minors that are going to contribute to the big league team at some point in time. But when you see AAA hitters go up against big league pitching. These guys, a lot of them are too good for AAA, but not good enough for the big leagues. And they're tweeners, and oftentimes they'll be overmatched in the batter's box. They won't have productive at-bats, make unproductive outs, which is a crime. And sometimes in the field they can do some goofy things as well. So watching Atlanta defeat Washington tonight, we saw a little bit of all of that in Atlanta's 3-1 victory tonight. And that was a little tricky to grade because I think both Waz and Dink pointed to Atlanta. In fact, I think Dink was hinting at Atlanta under the total. There was a pitching change in that game. Wood went against Trinan in the end, so there were some adjustments in price. But both Waz and Dink had the right idea with that Atlanta-Washington game, Heim.
Just curious, I wasn't really paying attention. How did Dink do on his 11 selections?
What was interesting is that those were kind of market plays. He was trying to beat all the numbers. Let's see. In the end, I think he's 3-7 with one play outstanding. He's got under in the Texas-Oakland game. And right now it's 4-1. That total was 6.5, 6 in some spots. So he should be okay there. But, I think I may have misrepresented what Dink was trying to do on the forum tonight at EOG.com. I listed the 11 plays, but I think Dink was intimating that those were games that he played with the idea that he was going to beat the number in those games. And possibly buy back. Although he says he's not big into that either. So we'll ask him next Tuesday exactly what he meant when he listed that long rundown of 11 selections. But Waz, I thought, was excellent. He had a play on a total that I tailed. The Houston-Cleveland game under the total of 8. Market drove that number down to 7.5. Indians 2, Astros nothing. It feels great, doesn't it, Heim, when you go under the total and the teams combine for a run or two?
Exactly. Boy, I wish I had Waz's energy. I tell you, I wish I was his age. I just turned 50 last week, and boy, I just wish I had his energy. The older you get in this business, it just seems like you make less and less plays every year. And
probably more mistakes, too. That's one thing I'm fearful of moving forward. Heim, you've got to stay mentally sharp. You can't be lazy in action or lazy in thought. And what's dangerous now, Heim, there's a lot of decisions to be made during the games with live wagering and all. So you've got to be mentally alert.
Exactly. Absolutely right about that.
Heim, your plays for this weekend. Can you give us a play for Saturday, a play for Sunday? Do you have any best bets on the card?
I'll give you a play for Saturday. I'm going to play UNLV on Saturday. Mm-hmm. That's game number 359. I haven't played it yet. The line is widely available. Line is plus 21. I saw one shop in Vegas that was actually dealing plus 21.5, and that's what I'm waiting for. If I do see the market might drop back down to 20.5 on Friday, then I might play it at I'll probably play it at plus 21. This is the thing with this game. There's really not a big talent differential between UNLV and Houston Cougars. And the Cougar-BYU game was very, very misleading. BYU went up 23-0 mid-second quarter, and it almost looked to me like their offense relaxed for the most part. But this is the kicker on this game. UNLV is one of the worst teams in the nation as far as stopping third down conversions. I read in the paper the other day it's 53%, which is, I think, pretty close to the bottom. On the flip side, you've got Houston, one of the lowest third down conversion teams in the nation. They only convert about 30% of their third downs. I know Houck, I've been reading the paper all week, they put in some special packages on third downs. UNLV's defense actually is pretty good first and second down. They seem to fall apart on third downs for whatever reason. So I think 3 touchdowns when you have 2 equal teams, and you have a coach like Levine at Houston who really hasn't recruited really well the last couple years. And let's face it, someone left that cupboard bare when he left Houston. So I think UNLV will be up for the game. They made a nice comeback against Northern Illinois, and I think that's more than ample points. I think plus 21 is the side with the Rebels.
So the first of the plays from Heim, betting number 359, UNLV plus 21 over Houston, 21.5 at South Point. I hate to give that away, Heim, just in case somebody grabs it before you do, but there is a race to the number, so you've got to be careful what you say. Do you have one more play for us, Heim?
Yeah, this is Friday. This is Friday's college football game. 306 under 46. That's the UConn USF game. I believe that's the American Athletic Conference first game for both. Two offenses, slow as molasses, no hurry-up offenses at all. And I've been reading the local papers down there, and Willie Target, the Taggart, the coach for USF, who used to be at Western Kentucky, he says he wants to establish the run on Friday. So I think you're above the key number of 45. I think under 46 is the way to go, and I think by game time, I think the total on this will reach 45.
ESPN2 to televise. The game goes at 5 p.m. Pacific, South Florida and Connecticut. Game 305-306 under the total of 46. I watched Connecticut play Boise State last Saturday. Took 16.5, and boy, that was a tough way to go down. There was a pick six, and then UConn drove the length of the field, and the receiver dropped the ball in the final seconds of the game for what would have been a touchdown to get back inside the number. And UConn, Heim, a pedestrian team. That offense is slow, right. So under 46 makes a lot of sense. One other note before you leave us, Heim. James D. checked into the EOG.com main forum tonight. He was talking about another big gambler among the ranks of the pro athletes, Gilbert Arenas, the ex-NBA star, huge action player, and likes the high stakes, so West Los Angeles poker scene.
You know, I did not know that. He's a big poker player, huh?
Yeah, you know, a lot of these guys with the money in their hands, right, and the competitive fire. I contend, Heim, that there's a lot of sports bettors who want to extend their competitive lives who are former athletes, whether recreational or professional athletes.
Charles Barkley as well. I'll give you one quick NFL game. It's a derivative bet. I believe the first half total for the Broncos Seattle Seahawks game. I don't believe there's a first half number offshore, but out here in Vegas it's 24.5. I believe over is the way to go, 24.5. They had a preseason game. It was preseason game number 2. Both coaches didn't really show anything. The first half total went under. The game total also went under. I think you'll see more explosive offensive plays at this time out.
Game 473-474, Denver-Seattle, over the first half total of 24.5. Heim, as always, a job well done. Thanks for the contributions.
Got it. Thank you.
That's Heim on the program. Isn't he good? Seanie Mac was good. So, too, was Heim, and appreciate his 3 selections. And at the end of this hour, we'll have all the plays. We'll have a complete rundown of the selections. I mentioned the low-scoring nature of today's baseball action. I believe 16 of the 30 teams are going to score 0, 1, or 2 runs tonight. So the Grand Salami again safely under the total, and watching a lot of that baseball action. But now I think is the time to play under, although, again, the market's depressed. So it's not always what you know. It's what you know that the market doesn't know. That's the real key. And oftentimes the market knows what you know, and that's the troubling part of this exercise. You've got to know something they don't know, and you also have to stay ahead of the crowd. You want to be gambling as you view the windshield. You don't want to handicap out of the rear view mirror. You want to handicap looking forward and projecting that things will happen, not handicapping or trying to project. No, you have to project. You can't look back and think things will necessarily repeat themselves. Joining us on the phone line right now from Southern California is EOG contributor, gynecologist. We'll call him Gyno for short. Gabe, good evening and welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, JK. How you good doing?
This is a winning trifecta. Seanie Mac, Heim, and Gyno, and we're focused on what will happen, not what has happened. I think Dink made a good point on last night's show. He criticized the program, saying that we look back too much, instead look ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's talk about what's going on this weekend.
How many plays so far for you, Gyno?
I really only have one play to give to the... the thing about this is, especially when you have me on Wednesday or Thursday, my big play this week in the NFL is Buffalo. But I have a -1, and right now it's 2.5. So what good is that to anybody that's following? You see my point?
Absolutely. In fact, a lot of the best bets numbers disappear. I know Bobby the Owl talks about being handcuffed, that he can't give out a lot of his plays because the numbers disappear.
Yeah, there's a college football play that I'm looking at. Last week I gave out Indiana team total over. It should have won a little more easier, won in the last minute of the game, but Nonetheless, I like Missouri team total over. Right now, I'm guessing the number is going to be about 43.5, somewhere around there. I think Missouri will score at will. One key note to look at this game is Indiana's punting game. Indiana's punting game is really bad. They're averaging 29 yards per punt. Missouri's got nothing but athletes on the field to return kickoffs and punt returns, and I just think Missouri will pour it on Indiana's terrible tackling defense. I think Missouri may score 60 this week, if not 50, and the team total should be no more than 44.
So Missouri over the team total of 43.5. That's the projected team total over 43.5. When do those team totals come out, Gyno? When do they first pop up?
Usually either the night before or the morning. I usually look at them in the morning. Usually I'm not going to lie. On Friday nights, I'm usually, out and about. I'm not trying to brag, but on Friday nights, I'm not glued to the computer. So I usually look for them very early Saturday morning, if I can.
That was a bad loss for the Indiana Hoosiers against Bowling Green last week. When you're the better team and facing an inferior foe, when you lose a game like that can really hurt your entire season. Kevin Wilson's the head coach of Indiana. I remember him during the Big Ten press conference, Gyno. He was crying about his schedule. It's a 6-6 schedule, not a 7-5 schedule. He wanted 7 home games instead of 6. And, that can matter for a coach who's trying to make it. And he played Bowling Green on the road and came up short.
Yeah. It was a very demoralizing loss. I agree.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, it was an exciting win for Bowling Green to beat a Big Ten team. And that's one of the stories early in the season, Gyno, college football, is that the Big Ten is insufferable.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, Wisconsin's 27-point favorite over that same Bowling Green. So what gives with that?
Yeah, I think it's a style thing. It's a style matchup. But, Wisconsin's just going to roll over Bowling Green instead of, the Indiana fast and loose style. Instead, Wisconsin, they could gain 8-9 yards a carry against that Bowling Green defense.
Yeah, no, and they probably will. I mean, they're probably going to get first down after first down. But I'll tell you one thing, I would not give 27 points. All the value's lost on that. I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of leaning Bowling Green, although I'm not going to get involved with that game. I think Heim gave out a good play with UNLV. I have another buddy who's really, really sharp, and he bets a lot of money on games. And he told me he really likes UNLV this week as well. So with Heim liking it and the guy I know that likes it, that might be a good play. I might really have to look into that one a little closer.
And I love it when the market's paint at 21, but you find the rogue 21.5. It can be a different bet. NFL, we talk a lot about key numbers, not so much in college football, but plus 21.5, especially if that game is sitting 42-21 mid-fourth quarter. You feel so good about your bet, about your situation, win or lose. And Heim made a good point, too, about BYU being up 23-0 against Houston, that, what happened thereafter, the 23-0 might be the real score, not the final we saw at 33-25.
Yeah. No, I think he's right. I mean, I from what I've seen from Houston, I've seen them on television. I don't think they're that good. I really can be perfectly honest with you. I don't follow UNLV that close, so I need to dig deeper. But from what I've seen from Houston, I have not been impressed whatsoever.
Here's what I don't care about UNLV football with Bobby Hauck on the sidelines. He came from Montana, known as a defensive guy. Run the ball, stop the run, that style of play. But defensively, it doesn't seem like UNLV attends to the business that they should. So they've been a disappointment to me. And he was saved last year getting to a bowl game and, really helped in terms of his job security. But we'll see how he fares this season. What about all that's happening off the field, Gyno? What do you make of these NFL players going bad? It's so disappointing. We saw another one today, Jonathan Dwyer, running back at the Arizona Cardinals. He's in a domestic violence case now, and he's been suspended by the team. How does that affect the play on the field, Gyno? Do you follow what happens with guys like Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson, and others?
Well, I mean, last week I thought it would hurt Baltimore, but in fact it looked like it probably helped them. So I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on the team chemistry and the way they feel about the player and the certain situation. But then you saw what happened in Minnesota. They got murdered by New England. So I guess you got to look at it as isolated situation. What do you think about it?
Yeah, case by case, I would agree. I like those special circumstances. Going back to what we talked about before, I like it when the market is uncertain about what could happen. And also, one thing that the market does, and bookmakers do, they make the mistake of having a special situation and then just adjusting it adjusting the point spread price in a small way, either by a half point or a point and a half. Or in baseball, we see just a couple of pennies adjustment, whereas they should probably take down the game and just come with a totally new number. Instead, they're still kind of married to that number that was on the board before it was taken down.
Yeah, like with the New England-Minnesota game, it was 3.5, then it went up to 5.5, and then it went back down to 3.5. I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, it's a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'll stay away. I don't know exactly what's going to happen." But that's when you've got to dive in and try to figure out what could happen. And also the derivative bets, Gyno, not just look at the point spread. I think a lot of times these special situations, you can find a play in the total. You can find a play in the first half or a team total like you like to do. You can find angles on these games with special situations.
Yeah, or props, player props as well.
Without a doubt, one player out might help another player. And I'm not big into the fantasy, but I'm sure that it goes a long way. Discreet Cat, an EOG contributor who's valued.
I love Discreet Cat. He's one of the better posters on EOG.
He is.
If you're not following his posts, you're crazy. The guy's great. And everybody needs to follow him closer.
Yeah, and he's versatile, too. I connect with him as a horse player, Gabe. I know you're a horse player, too.
Oh, yeah.
But Discreet Cat knows the ponies.
Yeah, he knows everything. He knows the ponies. He's really good with baseball. He's one of the best on the forums on baseball. He knows his football. He's very versatile.
Update now in Oakland, bottom of the ninth inning. The Rangers hit the A's with a 6 spot in the top of the ninth inning. How do you like that? Boy, if you had under the total of 6 or 6.5, another brutal beat for under players. Heim mentioned the total at Petco Park, but it gets no worse than what happened in Oakland, does it? 1-0 after 8, and Texas hits you with a 6 spot?
Yeah, that's really bad. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's where the lube comes in.
And it goes to show you, too, Gyno, just because a team has to win doesn't mean it will win. Detroit blew up tonight against Minnesota, and Oakland, they're searching for a playoff spot in the American League, and they're going bad lately. Texas beats Oakland 6-1.
I mentioned this on the forum. I did a public service announcement on the forum about maybe a month ago or so that beware of these games, especially with teams that have nothing to play for and playing against teams that like Oakland who have everything to play for. These teams that have nothing to play for, they play loose. They have nothing to lose. Where these other teams, they're very tight and they're high-strung, and I see the way I look at baseball. It's very mental. It's an extremely mental sport. So when a team is not really that good mentally, it affects the whole clubhouse, and I think that's what's going on with Oakland right now. I think they're not good mentally, and it's funny. I remember when I was first on the show this year, we were looking at them like they were a lock to be in the playoffs. They might not even make it to the playoffs this season.
In mid-August at Cantor Gaming, CG Technology now, Oakland was minus $4 to win the American League West, and the Angels just raced past them and put them in their...
Angels are, 10.5 in front of them now?
And they're cruising. And, one thing about the Angels, though, that I worry about, for Angels fans, the pitching staff strikes fear in the heart of no team. They really don't have... an ace they can count on in the postseason, do they?
No. I mean, nobody I could think of. Shoemaker, no. Weaver, no. You know what team I really like in the American League is Baltimore. I really think Baltimore is going to be the team that makes it to the World Series this year. Just for chemistry alone, I really love their bullpen. I like their rotation. I mean, I don't love it, but I really love Showalter. I love the way he manages games. I think the team just gets along, and if you look at a lot of these teams that have had success in the recent years, Boston, St. Louis, etc., they weren't necessarily the most talented teams, but they seemed like they were the teams that gelled together the best. And I just think that Baltimore, I really like them. I really, really like their chances this year, just for a chemistry base alone.
Mm-hmm. Talking about a staff without an ace, like I mentioned about the Angels, do you trust the starters for Baltimore? I mean, the postseason, starting pitching, the closers, timely hitting, critical. Defense is important too, but a lot of the prices are made on the starters. Do they have a starter you trust?
I like Tillman. Yeah, I like Chen. Yeah. I mean, I don't love their starters, but they have a really good bullpen. So if something happens, I think, their bullpen guys could come in and really help. What team do you like in the American League to move forward?
Good question. I haven't thought about it in those terms. I trust power pitching, and I like Scherzer a lot in a big game spot, and I think I would probably trust David Price in the postseason too. I would say Detroit,
But that bullpen. I don't know.
The bullpen
Nathan, 5 ERA. I don't know what they're going to do with that bullpen. They could be up, in games and then blow it in the 8th and 9th inning. I just can't trust the Tigers.
That's their Achilles heel, and maybe Scherzer and Price, they'll have to be their own closers come the postseason. Finish what you start, which would be a tough task for both. But it's and the postseason is a different breed, Gyno, isn't it? You never know what's going to come into play in the postseason, and it's the hitting. It's not so much about offensive production, it's about when you hit in the postseason. It's not so much if you hit, it's when you hit.
Yeah, and Baltimore's a very clutch team, and they have been all year. And I think Detroit's kind of been the opposite. I think they've been the opposite of clutch. Can I get one answer from you, JK? I want to know who you like in the – let's talk football real quick. Who do you like in the Denver-Seattle game? You got a thought on that game?
I don't. I was big on Seattle over Denver in the Super Bowl. I really thought the Seahawks were a great bet. I watched the AFC and NFC championship games.
That's one of the reasons why I'm asking you this question, because I know you had a good eye on that Seattle in the Super Bowl, so I want to see what you think about the rematch.
Yeah, I would say Seattle or pass for a couple of reasons. One, that home field so strong. What Seattle does at home, they're just a different animal. Then we get them off a loss. And
exactly.
we get a focused effort. And, Peyton Manning, not what he once was either. He's
agree.
He doesn't throw downfield with the zip he once had. So I would trust Seattle in the situation. The problem is the numbers, at 4.5. That's about the highest low number you can have, if you know what I mean. 4.5 is tricky. You've got
I agree 100%. I'm looking for 4. That's why I'm going to bet Seattle if I could get 4. I don't see any reason to give 4.5 or 5. I'd rather. If anything, if it goes up to 6, then that's it. I don't think anything between 4.5 to 5.5 is going to hurt me. So if I could get 4, I'll take it. Do you think it'll go down to 4? Any chance? Or?
Good question. No, I see some 5s out there, so I would say no before yes in that situation. But it's interesting too. I think Seattle gets the hero's welcome at home. Maybe a replay. It won't be a replay of Super Bowl 48, not that blowout fashion, but I think Seattle could get the money there. I would not trust Denver. Denver was a little goofy too, weren't they? Actually, in both week 1 and week 2, they I think they're 0-2 against the spread, are they not? They let Indy in the back door and did not cover last week against Kansas City.
Yeah, and I think Denver's a little off their game, and I think Seattle. I just think Seattle might be a bad matchup for them, and I think Peyton Manning's going to get rattled a little bit. They're going to hit him and get to him, and I just think Peyton will probably throw a couple interceptions, and I think Seattle will win the game comfortably, but I still want to give 4, even though I think they're going to win comfortably. I still don't want to give 4.5.
Yeah, the back door could be open, although Seattle does a pretty good job not allowing that kind of nonsense. So, it'll be fascinating to see what happens in Seattle. It's probably the game of the day, Seattle and Denver. How have you done the first 2 weeks of the NFL season, Gyno?
I'm 2-2. I'm up a little over a unit, so that's about. I gave out a teaser last week. I gave out a horrible bet on the radio, Pittsburgh, but I made up for it with the teaser I hit last week. So that's that. So and this week I like Buffalo, but they're -2.5 now, so I can't give that out officially. But I think San Diego is in a letdown spot. They're they just beat Seattle. They're all up and now they got to travel cross country and face a Buffalo team who I think is pretty good. I don't think they're great, but I think it's just a bad spot for San Diego.
Who's the best team you've seen in the NFL thus far?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, I still think Seattle's the best team in the league. And I think Cincinnati right now might be the best team in the AFC. If not them, then it's between Denver and New England. Although I think Denver will improve a little bit, but I'm going to right now say came down today. I'm still sticking with my preseason Super Bowl selections, Cincinnati and Seattle.
Oh, and that strong, too. I like the fact that you went on record saying the Bengals would win it all, or actually would win the AFC and appear in the Super Bowl. Since he has looked good in weeks 1 and 2, have they not? I like what they did.
I really think they're a good team. And I just, the only thing I think the only thing that could stop them from success is Dalton in the in the playoffs, because he's been kind of someone who, with lack of a better word, he's choked in the playoffs. So if he could get over that obstacle, then I think they're really good. I love their defense. I love Giovanni Bernard. I love their wide receivers. I think they got a really good team. They
play with an edge and a swagger, too. I mean, they are physical. And watch that game last week against Atlanta. They're into the roughhousing. They'll trade blows with you, and they won't back down from anyone. I like that out of my football team. And Cincinnati, I think, will go a long way this year in the postseason. About Andy Dalton, I remember him from his days at TCU, who was more of a game manager for Gary Patterson, but then he started to develop later in his career and could make some throws. And the problem with a guy like Andy Dalton, he doesn't have that next level to get to. A lot of times we see stars or superstars in a league, they have a regular season level, and then once the big games come around in the postseason, they can go and turn it up a notch, where it seems Andy Dalton, he's giving you all he has every start in the regular season, doesn't have that next level when they play quality defenses.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about Eli Manning? Is he finished?
He looks lost, doesn't he? And then the combination of the new offense, that's not helping Eli either. Last year, career-high 27 interceptions, I believe 44 turnovers for the New York Giants last year. That's just not going to get it done in the NFL. You cannot turn over the football. He had
another 2 interceptions last week. I mean, the guy can't go a game without throwing an interception or 2. I mean, that's just not going to work. Turnovers are the name of the game, and you got to avoid them at all costs.
He's got 2 Super Bowl rings. His brother has only 1. I find that interesting. But at the same time, one thing they both have in common, Gyno, is when things go bad, they are pouty. Both Eli and Peyton. Eli's
that's in the DNA, huh?
the body language is terrible. I think it feeds to the rest of the team. I mean, you get that negative mojo. Something tells me Tom Coughlin, this will be his last year on the sidelines of the New York Giants.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will be, and I don't know. I just see I know Seanie Mac likes him. I respect Seanie Mac. I know him from Cappers Mall and so forth, and I think he's trying to be a contrarian with the Giants pick. They're just an ugly team. I mean, I appreciate his savvy style, but I just pick a different team than the Giants. They're just so bad right now.
Gyno, thanks for the time. You have always been interesting on the radio, and I appreciate your contributions to EOG.com. We're cleaning house a bit at EOG, taking out the trash, and you've noticed the change, Gyno.
Yeah, I love what you've been doing, JK, and I want a more sophisticated gambling form, and I think we're getting it so far. I really like what's being done. I think the ratio of quality gambling topics to trash has gone a lot down, and I really like what you've done, and keep up the good work, JK.
Gyno on the program. We'll try to recruit him again next week. Don't forget, on tomorrow's show, Ed the Statman is our featured guest. He'll call in from the Philadelphia area. Always appreciate what Ed has to offer. Bobby the Owl will make a cameo on tomorrow's program right at the top of the show, and then Friday we wrap up the week with Railbird, winner of 12 straight head-to-head competitions until last week when Looker knocked him off. Congratulations to Looker in his victory over Railbird Birdie to try to get back to his winning ways when he meets Paul McDonald, a well-known Las Vegas sports bettor here in town. Selections heard on tonight's show. We'll start with Seanie Mac's plays. He liked betting number 364, Washington State plus 24 over Oregon, and 458, the New York Giants, plus 2 over the Houston Texans. Heim was here. He gave us 3 plays, 2 college selections and 1 pro play. Heim liked betting number 359, UNLV, plus 21.5 over Houston. That number is available at South Point. Game 305-306, UConn and South Florida under the total of 46. And he had one other selection. It was an NFL play, I believe. I'll get to it in a moment. I've got Gyno's play in front of me. Gyno like Missouri over the team total of approximately 43.5. Missouri over the team total of 43.5. Cannot find Heim. Oh, Denver, Seattle over 24.5 in the first half. That was Heim's third and final play. Thanks for listening.